Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. Jason Page, Kyle Porter. We're here again, Jason.
Back to back. Yeah.
I don't know if we're posting these back to back, but thanks for
cut that out.
Thanks for ruining our peek behind the curtain. We're going to talk about today's show. It kind of started. It started as a company-wide argument, which sounds a lot more dramatic than it actually it was. But we got in we're doing our annual sort of meetings, get together, planning for the next year, trying not to go out of business, all that.
Gotta make money with this.
We got into a long argument about strokes gained, the eye test, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to get to that. We basically made an episode where you had questions. So you and I have worked together for almost 5 years now, and we interact almost every day. And you had questions for me that you had never asked me before, that you were curious about. And we said, well, let's turn the cameras on and turn the microphones on, and let's just make a show out of this, because maybe other people have those questions also.
I think we come from very different sides of the golf fandom and golf experience.
Yes.
Like, you know who won a tournament, and I'm a bit like, let me check my illustrations, let me check the photos, let me check everything. But for me, it's more like, well, whatever. That's how it is.
Well, it's very the way that we ingest the golf world is very different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this episode is sort of getting at, is like, you have a curiosity of like, why do you do things this way?
Yeah.
Or how did you get to this point in your sort of golf fandom?
Yeah.
And probably other people have those questions. We'll save the flip side for me asking you those questions for later on.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, OGO is presenting today's, I almost said newsletter. They presented a lot of newsletters, but today they're presenting our show. And OGO, Jason, just dropped their first ever hard side luggage with the Renegade Vault. Like its name suggests, it's a rugged bag and was tested above industry standards for durability. If it's something that carries stuff you really care about, OGO makes a premium version of it. OGO built this bag with higher standards because, and this is my favorite part, hard side luggage has gone soft.
Boom.
I wish I knew who won the Ryder Cup. We're taping this before the Ryder Cup, because I would say kind of like blank. Okay, Jason, take it away. Ask me anything you want. AMA.
All right, we're going to ask questions, the hard-hitting ones everyone wants to know, but also something that's always confused me. It's something I always have to look up. Seems like every single newsletter, everything you write. Strokes gained.
Strokes gained.
Why do you care about strokes gained? Tell us what's up.
Yeah, as vice president of the strokes gained cabal, Solly's the president, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times, and this is kind of a normal sport thing, we look at sports, whether it's football, basketball, whatever, and we just say, oh, that guy is like fast, so like he must be good. Mm-hmm. Or that guy completed a pass that I remember, he must be good. And we use the eye test. I don't know if we should get into this debate again, but we use the eye test to determine who's good and who's not. And it becomes this sort of perception. It becomes a storyline, which can be a good thing. But my frustration with it in golf is that we actually have the numbers to tell you whether somebody is good or not. The whole point of golf is to get the ball in the hole in the fewest amount of strokes. We have numbers that will do that. Much like in baseball.
Yeah.
And even in golf, it's even purer, because you're only playing the course, right? And so the reason I care so much about strokes gained is because you and I only see, even for the best players, like I've probably only see less than 1% of the shots that Rory or Scotty has hit.
Yeah.
But the numbers tell me the full story of what they've done. Now, that gets very noisy on a given hole, or a given round, or a given tournament, even a given month. It's pretty noisy. But the further out you get, whether it's a year or a career, the better story strokes gained tells, because it tells who's the best at scoring in golf, which is the entire point.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, more or less. I mean, I
can see in your eyes that it bores you.
It totally bores me. I think it's also interesting to put things into context, so I get it. I'm always continually amazed at how much you can pull out of it. But I'm a bit wondering, like, when you think of strokes gained, you think of like, how do I I need to give a keynote. I need to prove or sell strokes gained to the world. Like, what are the stats that you pull out of your knapsack to say, like, follow me, strokes gained disciples? What do you keep coming back to?
Well, I think a good example of this, I was at the US Open when did Rahm win? 2021. Torrey Pines. Yeah, you wouldn't know.
I don't know.
Gotta look at the illustrations.
Check, yeah.
And somebody hit a strokes gained is very imperfect. I've had a lot of conversations with Joseph Lamagna about this. There's a lot of problems with strokes gained because it measures, as far as I know, it measures all 5-foot putts the same. Well, not all 5-foot putts are the same.
Yeah.
Right? You might have a double breaking downhiller at Augusta National. I don't know if you can have a double breaking 5-footer, but you get the point.
Could.
Versus an uphill putt on a slow green at a different place. Those are not the same putts. I think
first round of the Sanderson versus final round of the
exactly. I think over time that noise gets sort of filtered out, especially over like a year or 3 years or whatever. But anyway, I was at the 2021 US Open at Torrey Pines. And I remember, I forgot who it was, probably Rahm, because I was following him. He hit a drive on like the 12th hole and it was just off the fairway. It was like a foot off the fairway. It's a missed fairway.
Yeah.
Right? But the strokes gain, I think it measures like rough versus first cut versus fairway. So it based on shot length, it knows it's not in the rough. And you get, he would have gained like 0.7 strokes because it was a long drive. It was set up perfectly for a second shot, but he missed a fairway. So to me, strokes gained just eradicates a lot of these old stats that are archaic, like greens and regulation. Greens and regulation is actually a good one, but
fairway missed. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah,
right?
fairway missed.
Even if it's
putts,
coming in from there.
How many putts in a round? Like that doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
How many strokes did you gain putting? And again, like in the short term, that's pretty noisy.
Yeah.
But I think in the long term, you can actually determine, like one of the misperceptions about Dustin Johnson's career is, oh, he's a terrible putter. Okay. I can go look it up on Data Golf. He's actually a really good putter.
Yeah.
Same with Rory. And so I get frustrated when these narratives get spun up of like,
yeah,
oh, I saw Dustin Johnson miss a 2-footer at Chambers Bay to lose the US Open. He must be a terrible putter.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out we have data that will tell you whether or not he is.
I've got 2 follow-ups to that. Is there a possibility that in addition to strokes gained, they have a category for like the context or the weight of the moment? Is that factored in, or is that
not? And Roberto Castro was asking about this on Twitter actually the other day. He sent a tweet to Data Golf and said, "Do you have a sort of like player was in contention, like a strokes gained under pressure type stat?" They don't. They could, and I think they should, because I think that would, strokes gained under pressure would actually be more of like an eye test type stat.
Yeah.
Cause you're like, it would be a very small sample size. You're not in contention very often.
Yeah.
Unless you're Scotty. And it would tell you a lot about like what pressure does to the player. I think it'd be fascinating.
Absolutely. But I think we had a long debate before this podcast about the eye test. David, a Normal Sports staffer, was going off on eye test over strokes gained. And it got us kind of talking about like, okay, the eye test exists. It's a sort of intuitive thing. You admit that the eye test is sort of interesting to take into account, but what's the function of it for you?
I think the eye test is interesting in a couple of different ways. I think the 2 ways it's most interesting to me is it functions as a mechanism for determining who kind of like has it. And this was David's point, and I actually agree with him. Of like, you just watch Ludwig play Augusta, and you're like, I think he's like the guy.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know that stats can always, like, if you just look at a spreadsheet, it's difficult for it to tell you that. And I think the other thing is, when you get into contention, like let's look at Tommy Fleetwood, for example, is like the primary example this year. He got into contention a bunch And the eye test and the numbers, but the eye test specifically, you watch him and you're like, whew,
dang,
I can like see it. I
Yeah.
remember the putt he hit at Memphis on, I think it was 16 or 17. And you're like, oh my gosh, like that looked awful.
Yeah.
And so I think the eye test creates a really interesting sort of narrative arc. This goes back to the Moneyball, like, oh, he looks like a baseball player.
Yeah.
And so I think it creates this really interesting narrative arc that can kind of be played against, like, well, what does the data say? They're all tools. I'm not saying that the eye test is, you should throw it out. I'm not saying that strokes gained is the only thing you should pay attention to. But I am saying that you can't look at like 1% of a player's shots and say that makes up the entire player when we have the data that tells you what that player is.
Yeah. But knowing the player's tendencies can also add to the weight of the moment, or like someone coming down the stretch. That also gives the viewer something. Like if everyone was playing like Scotty, where's the drama there? Because you know they're all just going to win, or one guy's going to barely win or something. But if you know these characters, which maybe the character is the result of the eye test, like the character tells you what the tendencies are, what could happen down the stretch. It creates like intrigue or drama in the narrative. So
every character is a result of the eye test.
Yeah.
More so than the data. I think the data plays into who that character is, but part of my joy in doing this job is moving characters around, right? I think that's what you and I try to do, is like we feel like we have control of these characters in this universe, and we try to play them against each other over here, or pair them together over here. And I think the eye test is like the majority of the makeup of those characters.
Yeah. You mean in terms of like the work that we do, putting Tyrrell Hatton as an Amish guy, or that kind of thing?
Exactly.
So when I think about this all the time with illustrations, when I make a ridiculous thing of like Johnson Wagner or whatever in a new sort of fantasy scenario that I dream up. When you write something about a golfer, are you thinking that they will read it, or are you imagining them reading it?
No, not really. I do think I have become more aware of that. I think the reality of the situation is that most of the time we pour so much effort into our work, and what most people do see is a snippet of it, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And so I do have consideration over like, hey, if I write something on Twitter, like Phil Mickelson's probably going to see it.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
And reply.
And possibly reply, which is a weird thing. So I become more aware of that. But I try not to think about it as it relates to the newsletter or anything like that, because I think of that work as like serving the audience or the fan.
Yeah.
And if I think too much about like worrying whether a player or a executive sees it, then I think it's a disservice to the audience.
Yeah, I think so too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make any illustrations of Tyrrell Hatton as Hal from Happy Gilmore. But flipping it around, has it ever happened where something that has popped up, or some reaction from a subject that you wrote about, kind of made you think like the next time you wrote something, or you had a reaction to that? Did that ever happen, or can you remember a time when that happened?
I remember I got an email from Henrik Stenson one time. have I ever told you about this?
Never heard about this.
And he was so mad about, I had written like that he withdrew from a European tour event. And he was basically arguing, hey, I was never entered in this event. I think it was around COVID time, which was just, the whole thing was weird. But it was just such a strange thing to be like worked up about. And that it came from like his email account was so bizarre. Like,
he's got time.
Of all the things that I've written about people like Henrik Stenson that have been kind of inflammatory or potentially derogatory, it was like a WD situation that he was like really worked up about.
You touched a nerve, I guess.
You do, and I think it's, man. Yeah, I think it serves as like just a point to like, you never know like what people are going to.
Yeah.
I just presume like, hey, everybody in the world can see this, and you have to like, the way that I think about it is I'm writing to one person. I have a specific person in mind that I'm writing to, but I also like in conjunction with that, I know that like potentially hundreds of thousands of people might see this tweet or this news, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I think about
Who's
it.
the person you're writing to? Do you have like a literal person in mind?
Yeah. His name's Matt. He's one of my oldest friends. He lives in Waco. I don't like sit there and think about him like as I'm writing.
Yeah.
That sounds weird. I don't mean for it to sound weird.
Yeah.
But we used to write emails back and forth all the time when we were in grad school. We would be sitting there not doing our jobs. We had these grad school jobs at Oklahoma State. And so I think he's just sort of built in as like, because I'm essentially just writing an email to somebody. And he's my person that I write to.
Yeah. It's a tone of voice. It's like having a conversation. But I was wondering as well, you've got like a ton of experience in the golf world, being at live events, interacting with golfers on and off the course, in front of camera, off camera.
Yeah.
What for you, like first press conference jitters, was that ever a thing for you? Like when you're at a live tournament for the first time, or the early days, or maybe still? Is that something?
It is something. I still get nervous in press conferences. I don't know if that's weird. I don't know if everybody does that, but I think some of it is like, I don't get as nervous as I used to. I remember asking Tiger a question after the 2019 Masters, and you're like, hey, you just won. And you're like, oh gosh, like I hope I don't forget what I'm going to say. I usually write down the question. So just in case I forget it.
Yeah. It's smart.
I have something to go to, but I remember, I think it might've been earlier this year, actually. I was on a conference call. Scotty Scheffler did a conference call for the Masters. The winner does it it was like February or March, kind of like leading into the event, to the next year's Masters, because he won in 2024. And I asked him a question about, I said something like, hey, you seem a little bit uncomfortable with being the number one player in the world from like a personal standpoint. How do you reconcile that discomfort with like, you don't want to be famous or whatever, with the fact that you have all these obligations to do? And I thought I get done asking the question. I'm like, that's a freaking good question. Like, I'm so good at asking questions. And the first thing he says is, I don't really understand the question. And so you're on this call with like, obviously the number one player in the world's on there, these Masters people, officials, all your peers that are in golf media that are just sitting there waiting to get their question in. And so I rephrased it exactly the same question. I just used different words.
Yeah.
And he's like, I still don't really understand. And then he went on to give like this kind of lame answer.
Yeah. And
I was so frustrated because I felt like I was hitting on something that he has admitted to.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't capitulate to the premise that I was presenting to him. And I was talking to somebody afterwards, and they're like, maybe you should phrase it as like, this seems like, rather than you are.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like,
less accusatory.
That's a lesson for me to learn. So all that to say, like, it's been 12 years and I still screw that stuff up.
Have you found with the questions, having asked so many of them, that the ones which you have expectations to, like higher expectations, give a better result, or the ones that you're kind of like leaving it more open, or kind of a simple question gives something surprising and unexpected?
It's a good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I also feel very good when somebody's like, that's a good question. You're like, hell yeah, it was. Like Scotty did that after the 2024 Masters.
Yeah.
I asked him something. He's like, oh, that's a really good question. I was like, yeah, baby. I find that when I think too far in advance about the question, it usually doesn't go that well.
Yeah.
So you have to hold this balance. You've talked about this, of being in the moment and like trusting that something good will come to you. Not that you don't think about it at all beforehand, but if you're, Porat said this in our first episode when I asked him like, what's the way to make a good show? And he was like, don't be like too prepared.
Yeah.
Which totally, I resonate, like that resonates with me as it relates to asking press conference questions or interview questions or whatever, because if you're too prepared, you start to become almost overconfident in what you're saying, and forgetting that it's about what they're saying to you. Yeah. And so, good example, Ryder Cup press conference, Keegan announces his captain's picks. I didn't really go in with anything that I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But in the moment, I thought of something that I had just sort of a theme that I was thinking about, which was, hey, does this choice that Keegan made to not pick himself galvanize the rest of the team? To me, it seems like it did. And I asked JT and he gave a good answer, and it was like, it was great. It was like I got a good quote, and it was like a good moment and all that. So,
I mean, JT's reaction was also great, right? He was like, "Oh, thanks for the easy one, Kyle," or something like that.
Well, nobody had asked the players a question. So I had to jump in there. But yeah, that's sort of how I think about asking questions.
Yeah. When you're out there like on the course and you're kind of following the action, are you also thinking of like what you want to ask? Or are you just gathering notes for your writing, or how does that process look?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, you know this, but I don't go to that many events. It's the majors, the Ryder Cup. So when I'm there, I'm usually trying to write down the moment, like people, you know, this is especially true at the Masters, but people get to consume it. You know, they just announced the Amazon Prime thing, and they're on CBS and they're on ESPN, and they've got masters.com. You can consume the Masters in a million ways, but what you often can't do is be on 12 when Spieth's hitting it in the water. What does that feel like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? And so I think a lot of times, especially at the Ryder Cup as well, I'm writing down notes that are details that I think people would want to know, whether I observed something that a player was doing or what I was feeling in the moment. I mean, the Rory final round, I'm just writing like feeling after feeling after observation, and you're it's almost like not even writing. It's just like experiencing, and then somehow you're going to try to get all that down on paper, so to speak. 2 hours later. So I'm rarely thinking about future questions, and more so trying to stay in the moment and write like what that moment is.
Were there any moments when you were out on the course and you were just totally lost in the actual act of watching golf, and not really thinking of it as like, I have to write something about this, or you just like, lost?
It's the moments you would think. Spieth hitting it in the water. And then you have to rely on, because later on, I didn't have any notes. I'm just like, what was I feeling? What did it smell like?
What did it smell like?
It smells like fear. That's a KVB line. We've talked about that. It smelled like, the Masters has a unique smell. It's like beer and sweat and the kitty litter. And it's like a master smell. It's weird, but it smelled hot. There were all kinds of. I think golf tournaments, because of the environment that they're in, they often do have unique smells.
Interesting.
It smelled like mud. It smelled like a bunch of different things.
Have you written about that a lot? I can't remember.
I wrote about the five senses that you experience golf at St. Andrews. Actually, what it smelled like, what it tasted like, what it felt like. What I saw, all that. I'm actually very proud of, I forget about that piece, but I'm very proud of it, because it was, you know, these tournaments, you do experience them in so many different ways, which is one of the things you and I love about them. And so it was cool to write about that at a place that's obviously very special.
It's also like it's not really looking at the action, it's looking at the world around the action, which is how do you paint a picture? I think that's often in illustrations, it's not really like, you don't talk about the subject by putting the subject front and center. It's like you gotta kind of noodle your way around it and find another like entrance into this story.
All art is observation. I don't know if that's
isn't that something Jerry Seinfeld?
I don't know if that's actually true. I just am saying things, but to me, me, a lot of good writing is observation. Comedy is observation. You watch a comedian, it's not like. Comedians are good at observing and reframing. I observe that normal sport is just observation.
That's it.
And so I think that to observe the world around the subject is like part of the deal. And I'm interested to see, by the time we publish this, we will have already gone to the Ryder Cup together, but I'm interested to see what comes of your work by being there. Because all of your work has been from afar. And it's amazing. but I think it's going to be elevated, or like maybe not elevated, but just different.
Yeah.
Just from being in person and in attendance.
Yep.
Which I find interesting.
I had that on the seed trip to Ireland that we're going to write about and do a pod about, but it was a different experience being there, being able to lay in the grass for 5 minutes, look at snails. Like those, you can't get that by sitting in my studio or just like looking at the computer.
And those experiences, I think, are compounding.
Yeah.
Right. Like I write about the Masters differently now than I did 10 years ago because I've gone to the last 10 of them.
Yeah.
Like they compound and you understand that world better and better and better. The Seed trip, by the way, so Seed Golf is our golf ball sponsor. People check them out. But they sent you and one of our readers to Ireland. You play, what were the courses that you played?
Cairn, Enniscrone. We ended up playing County Sligo from a great guy named Tom from Fescue and Dunes.
Yeah.
And then we ended up, played those 3 courses.
Yeah. So thanks to them for not only sponsoring us this year and taking a chance on us, but putting that trip together. It was awesome.
That was, for me, that was a big like test case of just like how it is to have boots on the ground and then really work as an illustrator with live content.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped for the ride. I can't wait to see what comes out from the Ryder Cup. That's sort of the surprise of it. But I'm wondering, maybe this is the last question, but what do you think we should cover more of, and what do you think golf media should cover less of? Do you think about that?
I am very aware of over covering the subjects that I love, which is Rory, the Ryder Cup, the Masters, and Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
And
the hits.
And Scotty. I get very maybe anxious is the right word about like overdoing those. Mm-hmm. At the same time, they're the most fun for me. And I think they're the ones that people are the most interested in.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to, like, there have been times where I've chosen not to write about Rory because I'm like, gosh, it feels like I'm doing it too often, you know?
And on the other side of the coin, it's interesting to look back on a body of work that's touched upon it at different moments in his career. So it's a bit of both, right?
I've thought about that. Like, I'm so proud of things that I've written about him specifically, from Whistling Straits, from LACC, from the Old Course, from the Masters this year. Like, you start to add them up and you're like, oh, this is, it's a prism into somebody's career and life that has different facets, like from different places.
I mean, look at this year alone as
look at the back
it's like a whole lifetime in 1 year, it feels like. And the year's not even over. We still got the Ryder Cup. So I think it's also interesting, like, you make work at different moments of your life, and that work oftentimes changes as well as you change and as you grow and as you get new skills, but also life experiences, or you think about things differently. I mean, Rory is like one of the best at talking about the change that he went through, also from like coming onto the tour and how he needed that time to actually grow into himself and the career that he has now. So,
well, it's a good point that you bring that up, because I think the best work that people do is when they bring their own world into it. Not in like a, hey, I'm going to make this about me, but in a, hey, I perceive this way because these last 40 years are true of my life.
Yeah.
Right? That's the stuff where, because I think if you only interpret things from a distance, it makes it impersonal. Like, I can write about golf in a very impersonal way. Like, here's what happened. Yeah. Here's some things I observed. But I think it's most compelling to people when I make it personal. Like, hey, here's my, I was always annoyed by broadcasters and media people growing up that were like, oh, I don't really root for a team because I don't have biases. I get what you're saying, but that's not even true.
Yeah.
You do have biases.
Yeah.
Just tell me what they are,
and
we can go from there. And I find that to be a much more, or a much less disingenuous way of covering golf. So when people see me write about Rory, they're not coming in with any illusions that it's going to be like the most objective thing in the world. But at least they have a starting point of like, okay, I know how this guy feels. Like, how am I going to perceive this based on like how he feels about this situation or whatever?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think the Ryder Cup for you has also been kind of like like a road marker
Yeah.
throughout your career, but also in the careers of the players that you're covering. What's in your radar or on your radar for this year, things that you're looking forward to kind of checking back in with, or storylines that are reoccurring or like kind of brewing in your head?
Honestly, and again, this will come out after we've experienced all that,
Yeah.
which is weird to think about.
Yeah.
But the Masters and the Ryder Cup are the two like markers in time for me of my life and my career. So I think back to 2012, I was working an insurance job when the U.S. blew the Ryder Cup at Medina. We were painting our living room, and I was watching on TV with my wife, and we didn't have any kids.
What a time! What a different life! Yeah,
wild. Then I think about 2016, and all of a sudden I'm there with all these friends that I met on the internet, on golf Twitter, and that was so different than 2012. And then 2021, I had sold my Oklahoma State website, and we started Normal Sport we were about to start Normal Sport as a business, as our first book. So that was way different than 2016. And so this one, I think back to 2021, and it's like, well, we were starting Normal Sport and now we're doing it full time. So I'm sure there will be ways that I look back on 2025 compared to 2021 and 2016 that I can't even really see right now, that are very different. But that's what I always think about my career and like where I have been in relation to the years that those things happen. And I don't know, maybe that's selfish, but that's just like how I perceive them. And I do that maybe with the ones in Europe also, but 4 years is such a long time. It's like the Olympics.
Yeah.
You think about, man, my kids only have 2 more Olympics while they'll be at home.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like, that's not that much time. Maybe 1 for some of them. But
you count the Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics.
There you go.
You get double the amount.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, like, in golf, what are your markers of time?
Probably similar to you, but mostly the Masters. That's always like the moment to pause. I think a lot of people in the golf world would say that, but it's kind of like that moment where everything comes together. It's like perfect storm. It's also same time of year, same place. It's kind of like the familiarity of it. And I think also with the work that we're doing now, those major weeks become much more like time capsules of what was going on, what sort of bubbled up in that time within our work, but also within the tournament. So it's, for me, it's mostly the majors, but specifically the Masters, of just like, those high points. And I think that's also the most fun of, like, we say at the majors for us, it's just 1 week, daily newsletters, hardcore, really pushing it. But seeing kind of what comes up is always, And
I think that's relatable to, I hope it's relatable to people that are listening and reading, because I think a lot of people that love golf, and even people that follow it casually, I think the Masters is a marker in time. And so I think to ignore that as somebody that's making content and like writing very specifically and in depth about it is to ignore something that your audience is thinking about.
Yeah.
I think people in golf, like you said, like people that follow golf closely, they think about where they were last Masters or 10 Masters ago, or growing up watching the Masters or whatever. So I'm glad that we embrace those things. And you can go too far with it, and maybe we have at times, but
make it too big.
I would, or make it too sentimental or whatever. Yeah. But I think I would rather err on that side than on the other side.
Yeah. And I think even from a golf media standpoint, I'm excited, like at the Open, just meeting Brendan Porath, you for the first time, of just like having those places as kind of meeting points for people within the industry that we have a lot of interactions, but we never have like time to just be together. Yeah. And I think that time is just so precious. So if those tournaments can kind of like create that time for your internet golf friends or colleagues in the golf business, then I think that's also kind of a cool way of marking the passage of time.
Totally. They're gathering places for friendships that are more than colleagues, but maybe less than like day-to-day friends, because you don't see them all the time. And so it's a cool, they're very special weeks. I'm excited. Again, we keep talking about the Ryder Cup, even though it will have been over by a long shot by the time
Yeah.
this releases, but I'm just excited for you to experience that week because it's always so emotional. It's always so special, and what we'll have to do is, we haven't talked about this, but I have been thinking about it. I'd love to tape a show from Bethpage after we get probably Monday.
Yeah.
And just get your reaction and thoughts and your experience. Like, we could do our 5 favorite moments of the week. Doesn't have to be golf.
Yeah.
And again, that show will release before this one does. So
Probably, yeah.
we're referencing something that's already out, which is weird. But I'm just so excited for you about that.
I'm pumped. Do you think we'll meet Johnson Wagner?
I told you this earlier. I have always been this sounds insane. I sound like an insane person. I've seen him in hotels. I've seen him out, maybe on the course. I've been starstruck by him to the point that I'm like, I can't go say hi to him. It's Johnson Wagner. It's
We'll do it together.
3-time PGA Tour winner Johnson Wagner.
Normal sport art hero Johnson Wagner.
He has brought so much
It's
laughter to
the gift that keeps on giving.
our world, and
We've got merch coming out with him on it. It's just
professional relationship.
What a dream.
When he threw that ball into the hill at TPC Sawgrass, I thought
that was the peak.
I laughed. Usually when I say like, oh, I laughed about this, I'm like, in spirit, I laughed.
Yeah.
I actually died laughing at that.
I remember that
because it was so absurd.
We were both going on about that. Jeez, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Well,
you got any other questions?
That's it. Thanks for forcing me to do this. I think we should do this. I've thought about it as I'm asking these questions. I think we should do this as a regular thing, just like random questions. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
it is, and it's fun to, because we've gotten to know each other so well in this context and in this environment. So it's fun to. Podcasts are great because they give you an opportunity to ask things or to talk about things that you wouldn't necessarily talk about otherwise. They give you a freedom to discuss things like this, where it would be kind of weird if you just came up to me and you're like, tell me about what asking a question at a press conference is
I do that sometimes.
You would maybe do it,
Yeah.
but it gives you a freedom here. And for me to ask you things that either I should already know, or I forgot, or that I always wanted to know but been too scared to ask. It's just like a cool environment for it. So,
and maybe someone finds it interesting.
hopefully somebody finds it interesting along the way.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle.
And thanks for joining the show. And we will talk again soon.
Sounds good.